I had a question from Shane, frequent contributor to the show. And again, this was a question for the Late Kick Extra podcast, but I said, you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to use it on the show tonight. And so that's what we're doing. Shane says, I saw you picked Georgia over Florida, even though Jamie Newman opted out. Several others too. Why are people still down on Florida? What am I missing? I don't think you're missing anything, Shane. Number one, I'm not down on Florida at all. I picked them number 5. I picked them to be the first team out of the playoff, which stands to reason I think pretty highly of them. It was a coin flip for me, and by the way, still is a coin flip for me. Remember, these teams don't play to the 26th. I'm not at all against switching my pick here, so I'm still very much on the fence. I mean, there's a lot of intel and scrimmage reports still to be gathered from camps that are going on. I call it camp the whole way through, even though I know the definition of camp's different. But point being, I'm not even settled on this yet. So it's, even if I am settled on Georgia, it's coin flip, absolute coin flip. But here was my thinking, and you may disagree with this. I think Georgia's got the only elite unit, side of the ball, entire side of the ball, in the SEC East. I think that's their defense. Now, I think a lot of people in Florida circles would push back and say our defense is elite. And I would argue, I don't think it is. I think it has the ceiling. It has the potential to be that, but I don't forecast it as that. I don't think that's my default setting for their defense. But again, it has that potential. Georgia, that's my default setting for that defense. It would surprise me if they weren't one of, if not the very best defenses in the country. And so the reason that I thought that is because if I'm on the fence, if I'm comparing teams, and I'm pretty coin flippish about it already, that's enough to push me over the top. Something like that. Knowing that I got something in Georgia's defense that I know I can just count on. Like, unless they get decimated by injury or COVID, and that could happen to anyone, I can count on Georgia's defense being there every week. And that's nice to know that I can lean on. But outside of that, man, no, I didn't really have, there are not overwhelming reasons. I don't have 7 or 8 pillars of intellectualism that made me side with the red and black. Absolutely not. Having said that, I'm here to talk about Florida. It is, without a doubt, the team I am most excited to watch in the SEC in Week 1, and that is the Florida Gators. It's the game that I'll probably try and go to, Florida at Ole Miss in Week 1. Think about this. All these other teams we're talking about Georgia a second ago, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. That quarterback opted out, so now you got a new quarterback. They don't have those problems at Florida. They don't have those problems. Same offensive coordinators, same system. Dan Mullen's still there, so you hadn't transitioned to head coach. Kyle Trask is there. Emory Jones is there, so your top 2 quarterbacks are returning, and they're both viable. They'll both play, and they're both very good options. They are going to be as close to being the product they will be in Week 1 as any team will be. So they could have their hiccups. I don't expect them to be a well-oiled machine in Week 1, don't get me wrong, but what I do think we'll do is I think we'll look at Florida in Week 1, and we'll be able to draw a lot more conclusions from them against a team that they out-roster, they outman, they should beat in Lane Kiffin's debut at Ole Miss. Not a cakewalk, but should beat them. I think we'll learn a lot about Florida. Hey, man, even if I end up picking Georgia to win the East, it could be after Week 1 I say, oh, hit the dump button on that. I'm not big on predictions, guys. I'm big on week-to-week predictions. I'm not big on season predictions. So I'll flip those things in a heartbeat. However, if we get to the end of the year and my predictions were pretty good, I will tout them all offseason in a pretty obnoxious manner. And I leave it to you to call me out on that. The SEC East, though, speaking of Jamie Newman opting out, and that was Shane's question. I mean, if you were on the fence and Newman opted out, like, how are you not siding with Florida now? It's a half-decent point. To further his point, if I were going to play devil's advocate here and I was going to side with Shane, the SEC East sure did change a lot last week. Sure did change a lot. I want you to think about something. So Newman opts out. At the very least, you've got offensive uncertainty at Georgia. Quarterback uncertainty, but overall I call it offensive uncertainty, because even when they announce, I think they'll announce JT Daniels as starter, there'll still be offensive uncertainty there. Here's what changed. With Newman opting out and increasing the level of offensive uncertainty at Georgia, think about the cross-division games. Georgia plays Auburn and Alabama, and they play them in weeks 2 and 4, respectively. So you got to have your stuff together in the first month of the season. First 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you got to have your act together already. Whereas Florida was in a more fortuitous position last week because the SEC East, as I said, it was changing. And I mean it was changing from a scheduling standpoint, because while Georgia had more question marks enter the equation as a result of what happened inside their building, Florida had some question marks removed because of what was happening at LSU. Florida in the cross division plays LSU, and they've got all sorts of question marks there. They play Texas A&M, who had a couple of opt-outs last week, and they play Ole Miss week 1. So I think the craziest thing, the one that people wouldn't see coming, would be this. There's the distinct opportunity for someone to lose in Jacksonville and still win this division. I think that would probably be Florida if it happened. But a lot of stuff is going to happen to decide this division before these two teams play. That's what I'm trying to tell you. After they play, both of them should be favored in every one of their remaining games. Now, I know Florida goes to Tennessee at the end of the year, and a lot could change between now and then, and I don't think Dan Mullen's wish list included playing in Knoxville, Tennessee in early December. Having said that, I think someone's got to get it done in the early portion of the season. That's where the SEC East will be decided. This is Dan Mullen's most athletic team, in my opinion. It is his best team that he's had so far, in my opinion. And I think it's his most dynamic team. And I'm not just talking about offensively. Although I do think they are the most dynamic version of the Florida teams that we've seen under Dan Mullen offensively, too, even at quarterback, to be honest with you. But defensively, the more I listen to Todd Grantham talk and look at the personnel they have there, the more I think that he's got as good a combination to do what he fully wants to do defensively as he's had there. So there are, make no mistake about it, Shane, a lot of reasons to buy into Florida. I have bought into them. It's just that I gave you my thinking there, and it could change. So we'll see.